All right. Well, police and shalom to everybody. We are transitioning. Uh, it What an amazing time it is, and a wonderful day to you, each and every one of you. Those of you that I've already talked to today, then blessings. I enjoyed that time, and it's so wonderful when we get to find the truth and see reality in the world that forms around us. And so, many things have been going on and transpiring. Wonderful indeed. Even the ones that ain't so great all the time are actually part of the bringing us to a place of decision. And so I titled this as Yes, and the reason that I titled it as Yes because oftentimes we've lived most of our life constantly saying no, and it's about time that people started saying yes instead of no. uh, you say, well, but there's times, of course, there's times to say no. I'm not talking about the illogical times when it's obvious that no is the answer. I'm talking about the time for each and every one of us to make a decision about who and what we're going to be. That's the yes. And so as we grab a hold of that, man, there's so much on one level. It seems like nothing's going on, and then at the other level, there's so much going on. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. A little bit scary sometimes, and but that isn't a reason to pull back or to diverge away. And so, if you've experienced some of those things, maybe you've had some strange encounters physically with your body. There's been many that have. We go through cycles as the moon changes and stuff. We see things like that affect us, and we can't always figure out what it is. And then we go do a little bit of research, and source brings the truth that, oh, well, there was a planetary thing going on. And so it is much wonderful that we get the opportunity to begin to realize that there is more shifting than what we can see. And so, as I said, it's going to end up inevitably. It'll be something that you more feel than you see, and that's of course the area, the direction that I would love to always send and encourage people. You know, the sad and there's so many paradoxes. Alan Watts, if you've ever done any listening, he's quite profound. But Alan constantly was talking about the paradoxes, and so this evening I want to kind of touch on a little paradox that went on, and it has to do with something that I said on Saturday, and that had to do with affirmations. And there were people who apparently didn't understand what I was saying, and so if that is the case for them, then it's highly possible that it's the case for someone else. And I was in no way intending to discourage anyone from affirmations. What I was really trying to do was to expound on the reality that affirmations are words, and yes, all words have power, uh, but I think really I was looking to the higher elevation, and that is when those words are coherent with your inner belief system, then they become massively powerful. So if you misunderstood in that manner, I do apologize. Most of the time I have so many things going on, and I come in here and I got enough stuff to do 5 days, and I have to come in here and try to make an hour out of something, and for me it gets quite difficult often. And so there's just so much stuff that's beneficial to us, so much stuff that's being revealed. Uh, I guess, as it were, I'm like a Christian kid who left the church and went to the candy store. The church didn't do much fulfilling, but the candy store sure has lots of options, and so uh, that's kind of, I think that's often the way that this ends up working for me. All of our words are powerful, and I'm going to say this because this is kind of a piece that's appropriate to put here. What we haven't really known and what we haven't really recognized is that words are possible, or are very powerful, and of course you probably have heard that your whole life. But I would like to speak before it's over with. This will come up several times. I would like to speak about the things that we don't speak and the power that they have. You know, everybody talks about that, and we do need to be careful about how we say and what we say. And of course, all of us are not perfect at that. And if the people that you're talking to don't have a heart to be able to recognize that, then it makes it very difficult for you. But and some of you have told me you've encountered those situations when you try to explain simple pieces, and others, the light comes on and it's like wonderful and glorious. And so I think as you go along and you try to look for those that are wonderful and glorious, and not that you drudge through, but that you try to be kind and patient with those that aren't so glorious. But I'm not quite sure that we really understand. I'm noticing something, and actually it's quite drastic. Coming out of Christianity began to expose the untruthfulness of religion and the necessary purpose of religion, which may have served a time in history. Maybe it did. I don't know. I can't study history and see that. I think it served specific people in history. But as we continue to go along, and these paradigms begin to keep popping up, and they keep popping up. On the one side, an affirmation that has no attachment to your heart is words, and so at the bare root, words do have power. But what is so infinitely more powerful is when there is a connection with that word, when it comes from inside of you. And when you speak in those senses, there's also massive things that shift and go on with the universe. It's okay. So we're coming out of Christianity with a whole suitcase, a whole luggage full of false beliefs. And as we come out, many people may be at some levels, but at other levels not at all, really trying to find out, how do you navigate this new landscape that looks nothing like all that I've known my whole life? And I watch people how sloppily they play with truth, thinking that they have it all figured out, like they had it all figured out in Christianity, which of course is an oxymoron, because they never had it figured out, or they would have never had an issue with religion in the first place. So there's many of these kind of paradoxes, and since most of the people that I know are people who are making an exit at some levels from Christianity, then that becomes very relevant. For those people who maybe never went to church, or they grew up in an atheist family or something like that, religion never meant anything to those people anyways. And so they have a whole completely different dynamic that's not the same as yours is. If you're one of those, like all of those people who were with me in Austin at my church. And so as we go through these changes and these transfers, there really is a lot more that has to go on than just, okay, I learned a few things and now it's okay. Everything that we were taught isn't thrown away. Most of it is really being revealed through perception. And I know that I've shared that, and I hear actually quite a lot of people that are doing pretty much the same thing I am, which is recognizing not necessarily that all the Bible is a lie and we should throw it all away, but they're recognizing the pieces of the Bible that actually fit the pattern. And of course, you probably kind of need to know what the pattern is before you go making things fit. If you don't, then you won't be any different than you were in Christianity. You'll still have a false belief system. It's just one you created instead of Christianity. And I want to be very careful of that. I want to be very fluid to make sure that I don't stay in a place where I don't need to, or stay there any longer than I necessarily need to. I do have to tell you, I see that there, for me, maybe not for you and maybe not for anybody else, and that's okay too. But for me, there is a very, very, very vast separation that's happening quite quickly with spiritual shit. Pardon my language, but that's what it is. And I don't really have a lot of interest in that stuff anymore on most levels, to be quite honest with you. The reality of all of this is that if and this is more, I can't even give enough significance to what I'm trying to say or to what the words mean. If you're real about finding the truth, then nothing will be too excessive to do to find it. And if that's not what you're looking for, you just want it easy. Pat me on the head, pat me on the back, tell me I'm a good fella and that I can live forever and let me go. And if that's all that you need to be happy and fulfilled, then by all means, take it and run. But for those other people that are looking for something that is substantially more than that, then that is a totally different navigation scheme. It's a totally different path that you must walk. And it's been quite amazing over the last few months as I study how little really truly spirituality has to do with anything. It's almost at the same level as Christianity, to be quite honest with you. You may look at me with a confused look on your face because you think, oh, we're all spiritual. Well, we are all spiritual. And so in that manner, everything still remains as totally spiritual. But here's a reality that you may not have understood, or maybe you do. And that is this, folks. All of these things were given to us by Yeshua as acts that you must fulfill, that you must complete, that you must do. And so that's why I said the word. There's really quite a few lines that have to be drawn and separated off for you not to mistake or misunderstand what I'm talking about spirituality. I'm talking about the walk through the facade that has been created, concocted, and most people are buying into how to become what I already am. And what I'm watching is those who are getting it, there's yet again another separation is starting. There are more and more people who are not spiritually based that are telling people the line is happening right now between those people who are and those people who aren't. Now that's not any different than what came out of spirituality, but what it actually is it's actually an outworking of the changes that this, if you would call it that this enlightenment, that this evolution of thought and consciousness, of course, everything is spiritual. So that's why I say that you have to have a want to not be conflictory, to be able to deal with the fact that it's kind of like using Yeshua and Jesus. I'm not the only one who very seldom uses the term Jesus, because they understand what I do, what that connotates. Well, it's kind of the same thing with spirit. Because if all that you need is you want to follow blindly and flow with the masses to the netherland of nothing, then by all means follow. Be a follower. Put your nose in the dirt and let them drag you through it. It's cool. It's yours. You get to do your own reality here. But on the other side, if you have a desire inside of your heart to learn how to navigate and be all that Source intended for us to be, folks, that's a totally different thing. And that's not what they're selling you. And so it's very difficult because I desire to lift people up, but you have to also you have to want to be lifted up. You have to want to be lifted up. Not just God comes along and lifts you up. So as always is the case, you're the creator. And I want to say with this also that I know that sometimes there are people, I get a feeling, a sense of intuition that many people get offended when me and other people as well, because I've watched it in other speakers that say the very similar words that I do. And people get offended when you tell them that you're creating your own reality. So whatever your reality is, you have yourself to think. You don't have anybody else to think because you did it. And that's offensive, especially to people who are trying to play the game of spirituality. And so if that's offensive to you, then maybe it's something that you need to open your eyes, and maybe you need to spend some time looking inside and ask yourself the simple question, why does that offend me? See, the problem is that nobody wants to do the work that's necessary to be what we are. And it's really not that we're being what we are, it's learning how to navigate to get to that point, and then how do you use those tools once you get there and you don't know. If you've never used a nail gun before and I put a nail gun in your hand, it's a good possibility you're going to shoot yourself or someone else with it. If you've never used a saw and I hand you a saw that has no guard, that the guard is blocked up on, it's a good thing you're probably going to cut your foot off or a hand or somebody else. And how do I know those things? Because I've watched those things real world. Okay? And this is a system all by itself that functions outside of everything else. That's why even the great spiritualists, Casey and Dolores Cannon and many others, by 30 years of doing spiritual work, and they got to the end and their message was totally different than it was when they started. And it wasn't so kind and happy and funny. It's bad stuff is coming and we're going to have to live through it. So there was a morphing in these spiritual people's ministry over the course of years that drastically changed the way they view spirituality at the end because it wasn't working. Woo-woo doesn't do anything for anyone. Okay? Learning how to walk in strength and power inside of myself and knowing who I am and knowing who Source is, that helps you navigate the world that you live in. That's why Paul says, so it's a perfect example where Paul says that you need to redeem the time for the days are evil. Redeem the time. That means you need to buy your time back. That's not a linear timeline. That is the time that we have lost and wasted to the false belief systems of what we are and what the world really is. And so every one of us have an opportunity, get a chance to do that. And hopefully everyone will do that. I don't say that that's exactly how it's going to end up looking at the end, but that's okay. Because if it doesn't look like that, it doesn't affect anybody. Or it doesn't hurt anyone, let me say that. People who are not going to learn how to walk and navigate in Source's time, it's not going to matter because they're not going to be there anyway. And just so you know, there's just as many new speakers that are bringing messages from the realm that are reiterating this again. It's like a cycle, and it got quiet for a while, and now there's a cycle of people who are coming from other places who are speaking to us and telling us that there are many things going on that you know nothing about, and you think that you're safe and you think that you're protected, and yet you don't know what is coming for this earth. And yet, on the other side of that, it's not bad. Change, yes. I've had some conversations with people about the banking, and so to be sure, everything is very unsure. What's it going to look like? What is AI going to take over? You know, it's really funny because if politicians and educated people were listening to spiritual people, which they probably don't very much, AI is a very part of this, but AI is actually intended, so I'm speaking down the road, the purpose of AI is to force people to make a decision to stand on their own. You understand that the purpose of AI is to drag you away from, they know what weak humans, how they behave. They know how lazy minds behave. Whatever is given to someone that they don't have to go find on their own, they will accept it as truth, even if it's the greatest bold-faced lie that existed. And AI is going to do that. And it will be. There are many, many spirit deep people who are very concerned about anything that takes us away from looking inside of ourselves. And AI does that. It takes you away from finding the divine answers that already could be accessed by your higher self. It takes away from there being a need for you to come to relationship with your higher self. Nobody's, or when I say nobody, there are people, but most people are not talking about these things. They're telling you all the other spiritual stuff. This is about one thing and one thing only, and it can be totally accessed through physics alone. It doesn't need any form of spirituality to access the reality of source. That's quite a revelation. Doesn't mean spirituality is bad. Doesn't mean we're ever not part. We are always spirit. But I'm talking now the metaphoric picture of what spirituality means. And so that really can only be defined as, what does spirituality mean to you? What does spirituality mean to you? And everybody has their own opinion about what spirituality means. So we are spirit. There's no question that that's true. That will never cease. It will never go away. But the mechanics come out of the inside of us. You know, the purpose of all of this is so that you first meet your higher self, and then your higher self becomes you on the outside. I could show you many places in the Bible where that principle is the only principle that has value. Okay? So, what does it mean then for me to meet my higher self? Because if that question's not answered, you're still functioning in your subconscious mind, folks. You're still running on the programming mama, daddy, preacher, school, society taught you. Higher self is the true divine us. And it's totally, that's why Yeshua taught a teaching. And Yeshua said it is only when, I've read this to y'all many times, but it is only when the inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside. It's only then. Now you can get mad at Yeshua for telling you that there's some obligation that you have to the higher source, and I don't really care if you get mad at him or not. He doesn't, I assure you. He's not offended by you being offended. But the reality of it is that the whole purpose of this thing doesn't have anything to do with talking to spirits. It doesn't have anything to do with seeing colors. It doesn't have anything to do with any of that stuff. And the only thing that Source is interested in is people coming to the recognition of what they are. And then once they come to that awakening, that's the awakening. I am divine inside of me, and I now possess knowledge of that. That is the awakening. There are many steps that take us to get there. Those are the little awakenings I talk about, where you get a revelation and then it just doesn't leave you, and Source brings wonderful truths and changes perceptions for you. But inevitably, the whole place, and this isn't a head knowledge, well, that guy told me that I'm divine, which is exactly the principle. I'm really speaking at a much deeper level when I talk about these things like affirmations. What I actually said on Saturday, I believe, is that an affirmation with no connection to feeling is useless. Okay? When an affirmation comes from a heart, and it is a true statement of heart, that's a different manner. And so it doesn't mean don't use affirmations, because sometimes if you're not at that place, that affirmation will be the thing that encourages you to continue on. If you know that you're not doing right and you tell yourself, I am better than this, and I can do better than this, and I am stronger than this, keep saying those things. But they won't have their true zing, they won't have their true power until that is your inside belief system. Do you understand the difference I'm trying to make here? They're very minuscule because you say the same words. That's why I have so many hesitations. I wish on some levels, although I know Source put me through everything I've been through to prepare me for everything he's preparing me for, which is absolutely profound. So there's no struggle with me. I just recognize all of the lingo that people have in our society that are associated with thought processes, religion, spirituality. Did you know that higher consciousness people don't resonate with lower consciousness people? Oh my God. They don't resonate. Pure and simple. I guarantee you higher consciousness people don't want to be around lower consciousness people. It's exactly the same as a lower conscious person doesn't want to be around a higher conscious person. It's no difference. It's exactly the same thing. What you are inside is what you are looking at. The mirror. If you want the mirror to change, you have to change the inside. The outside does no good. That's the affirmation concept. You have to change inside. And only when you do that will your picture begin to change. And so we can do that. Whether you know it about yourself, whether you believe it about yourself, whether you understand it about yourself, all of those things, dear one, every human being that is on this journey is having to learn every one of these things on their own. So we're not doomed. We're not horrible. You might make some bad decisions. When you make those bad decisions, the question you might often ask yourself is, have I learned what was the wrong in it? Because it's only when you begin to see the wrong. It's not the pain, because pain is a joke. It's a game we use to try to protect ourselves. You don't understand that concept, do you? All your life growing up, when you watch somebody when they got in trouble, they always exhibited external pain. You know why you exhibit external pain? Because it's a way for you to escape. People have emotions and, oh, poor brother, he's so messed up, and oh, we should just love him and be so kind. And poor brother says, yeah, shoot, if I can get people to function like that, I'll just keep playing that game. Some of you have never even thought of that. Do you understand we are playing a cosmic game? I read it to you the other day, right out of Yeshua's mouth. Do you not know that God created this game and put humans down here to find out which ones would come back to him at any cost? Wow. You understand now why I could try to give you the blessing that all of this fake spiritual nonsense, I'm not talking about the real spiritual. I'm talking about the fake spiritual nonsense that is being sold to people by the gallon. The purpose of us is to find the true us inside. And in doing so, that true us then begins to grow in us. And what happens? Exactly what Yeshua said. Then the inside becomes the outside. A band that we like a lot, some guys call Blackberry Smoke. He has a line in the song, and I laugh at this, and there's lots of them in their song. But he says that you wash your hands, but they never come clean. And that certainly is straight out of the Christian mindset. But the reason that is true, and it is very true, Charlie, you're absolutely correct. It is true. Because the problem isn't that you need to wash your hands. The problem is you need to change inside. And then you know what happens? You won't need to wash your hands. Because hands are a symbol of external function. I don't know how strongly that I can get it, and I hope I'm not butchering this. Source so desires for me to share truth that other people are not sharing. But friends, inside of it, we are great and amazing and mighty and full of love. You have as much love as any other created being has ever had inside of you. There was a guy I knew, and he made a statement. He said he felt like God told him that you have enough love to rule the world. Every one of us has that. That's what he is. That was the statement. You're God. It's not you. It's all of us. Here's the question, though. Is that true? Here's the question, though. Are you being that? Here's the question, though. Are you saying yes? Here's the question, though. Are you on a journey to explore that and to experience what might it really be if you could then sing a song that just fills your heart with joy while you're driving down the road in total silence, which is something else that I want to share with you guys desperately because it's absolutely mind-boggling. But when you're driving down the road, you can sing a song and you can say, I am love and I am peace and I am light and I am whatever you want to say you are. That's an affirmation. And it's not the same as driving down the road totally by yourself and tears break out and that you can't control and stream down your face and you weep before Source and you recognize that you really are those things. They're not the same, folks. I'm sorry if I don't know how to draw you a picture or make a movie so that you could see the essence and the depth and the separation of what I'm talking about versus casually using words. Yes, words have power. But I'm going to tell you something that's infinitely more powerful is when those words come from you with feeling. That's what Source is looking for from us. That's what manifestation is trying to teach people, is that you must feel. Yeshua said, you must believe that you have already received it or you will never get it. And that's such a hard teaching. Christianity just tells you that God wants to give you a lot of things, and so they circumvent and hide the truth from you. Yeshua's words, if you want to talk about words having power, friends, you sit down and go through the Bible and read the things that he said with a new understanding that he wasn't a Christian and he surely wasn't a Jew in religious manner, but that he was a spirit being. And begin to read the words he said and ponder them. I mean, long and hard. Because everything revolves around this. Who are you inside? Who are you? You can fake your outside and nobody knows the difference. That's why the avatar I talk about all the time. I see people all the time. They smile and they laugh and you get those people away and you listen to who they really are. They're full of anger and hate and resentment, unhappiness. That's not who they really are. That's the avatar. That's the show they put on for the world. Oh, look, everything's good. While inside, they're falling to pieces. And some of you feel that way, and you can't make sense of it. Source wants us to be able to make sense of it, friends. We're not alone. We've never been alone. But if we don't say yes, and we continue to function in resistance, which is exactly what's going on, then you separate yourself from who you really are instead of working to endear yourself to who you really are. You do have the power to invoke. In fact, I would encourage you to do it every day. Good morning, higher self. I desire to have a relationship with you today. Would you please help me with these situations that I'm going to encounter? And then believe that you're going to get help. You have no clue since I started doing that, the different things. I've seen more synchronicities in the last month than I have the whole time I've been doing this. And it's not great stuff. It's just little bitty things. And you know, oh, well, that came exactly at the specific time that it needed to come without me having to do anything. Here's a problem that humans have. Humans try to make the spiritual happen. And there's a totally different system between you through will and source through his will. And so when things begin to orchestrate themselves and when things don't work out, they don't upset you anymore because you're not interested. If it didn't work out, then it wasn't supposed to be. And you find peace with that, and you're no longer scared and worried and anxious about it. I started talking and sharing, and Source has given me perception. That's one of the huge pieces of this. How you view every individual situation determines what you do or don't get out of it, how it benefits you or how it doesn't. And so, and yet that just, for most people, it seems like it's just a word that goes in their head and out their head, and that's the last time they think about it. But that's a second by second thing you're supposed to be doing every day, all day long, is looking at the situations around you and asking yourself, well, why does that make me feel uncomfortable? And there's some stuff as we get in, there are actually teachings that have to do with this, the two sidelines. It goes back in a nutshell. I was talking to a brother yesterday about our sacred frequency. How many times a day are you letting other people affect your frequency? If you don't understand and you don't value your frequency as being, but I'm going to give you a little shell shocker that you may not quite have understood. Everyone's talking about manifestation and everyone's giving that if you'll think in the right way, and there are all the things that Yeshua said, but they have to come out of you naturally inside. It's not something that you can somehow fake, you can provoke. Oh, all of a sudden I believe that I have all the money that I need. Because that's not even what Yeshua said. Not really. And so we've lived most of our lives and we've been told that we have to pay attention to what we say and we need to be careful, and of course all of those things are absolutely correct. But here's something that we haven't quite understood, I don't think, yet, and I know that Source is kind and just and loving and understanding. But just as the concept that I shared with you guys a week or two ago about, everybody being in the present is to help you change the creation of your future, but living in the present is living in the creation. That is to say, you created your present. That's from what happens back here. People have problems with manifestation because there seems like there's a lag. Well, if you lose energy, if you lose the ability to hold consciousness on whatever it is that you're believing Source for, then at some point while you're waiting for it to manifest, you lose that, then you lost your faith. This is what Yeshua said. He said, whatever thing that you need, that you believe, that you want, when you ask for it, you must believe that you already have it. They don't like to really get on this very much. I never found a Christian teacher yet who got on this very much. See, it wasn't that as you go along, you would believe it when you finally got it. Oh, I believe, and then you go sit and talk and go, well, I don't know how long, my bank account's about broke. You just lost the request. And this is really important because I used to watch this in Christianity and I had zero understanding about what it was and why it was. And so little by little, Christianity, pieces of those doctrines are starting to be exposed as to why they wouldn't ever work. And most of it is simply because you were never told that it's up to you to maintain that energy. And so what does it mean? What did Yeshua mean? If Yeshua says that whatever thing that you ask for, you must believe that you already have it. And so does that mean that that's a one-time act that you go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be successful in business, and poof, that's all it, and then you go back onto your whining and complaining about how horrible your life is? Is that right? Is that what you think Yeshua was trying to tell us? What Yeshua is talking about is hold an intention. And you must first feel it, that deep thing I was talking about inside of you. You must first hold that. And then not only do you hold that, you have to hold that until it manifests. Just so you know, there are many, many, many schools that are teaching this principle right now. I didn't learn it from a school, but they are teaching the exact same principle. There are schools that are teaching people how to do the very things that I'm trying to share with for you that cost thousands of dollars. And if you cannot hold your intention for a specific amount of time, they tell you you'll never get anything from the universe. You don't have the fortitude. You don't have the desire. A year from now, 5 years from now, what happens when what you're waiting to manifest takes 10 years? Did the whole time were you walking every day smiling and singing, happy because I am going to see exactly what I believe and what I know? This is really huge, folks. Maybe because it's me and I don't know. But this is a piece of the pragmatic walk of higher consciousness. It's about to revolutionize a bunch of people. My words are not false. I promise you that. And it's only going to be those people who can hear those words that will see what's coming. And so maybe that makes you condemned because maybe you somehow feel like you're broken and you're not worthy. That's another issue you need to deal with. What could a human do to make you lose that feeling? What could another human being do for you that would make you feel worthy inside of yourself? I'll answer the question for you. Nothing. The only person that can come to that revelation is you. And until you do, you're in resistance against the universe. It's affecting your frequency. So you walk around while you talk out of one side of your mouth about high frequencies, on the other side you throw more negative frequency than you can ever trump. Man, this stuff is so destructive to people. It's been destructive to me. It's been destructive to everybody that I know and love. It just is destroying us. And no one is telling us how to be successful in the kingdom. They're telling us what the kingdom is supposed to be. I am the kingdom. Do you get that? Do you understand that? I am consciousness. And so are you. And until you accept that and it becomes alive in you, it's just a dog and pony show. But when you do, you will begin to watch the universe react to you. Okay, I want to give you one of the greatest tools to go with all of this amazing things. Maybe I'm over a lot of people's heads, and if I am, I'm really sorrowful. I don't know why God made me who I am or put me here in the first place. I was happy being a gun builder. But he has a reason, and he wants me to lift people up. So here's the thing I want to say to you. One of the ways that you destroy yourself the most is when you're doing nothing. That's not a connotation against doing nothing. In fact, in some ways, the problem is we keep trying to do something that we don't have the power to do in the first place. But the time when you measure your base frequency, I'm going to speak for a second about your base frequency. That is the frequency that you vibrate at when no one else is around you. Okay? The frequency I was talking about that brings me to tears almost every time that I'm alone by myself. And the one that makes you rehearse every horrible thing in your life that's ever happened to you. See, we've had a mindset that it's all this thing out here, and it's not this thing out here. It's this thing right here. And it's really sad because you can't give this to people. All I can do is tell. I can't make somebody hear it. But the truth of what's going on inside of us is it really has to do with who you truly will allow yourself to be. And I can't give everybody all of the pieces. It's a daily journey for me. I walk. Source is so kind and benevolent and gives me pieces constantly. I recognize, thank you, Source, that came from you. I get an intuition and I say, thank you, Source, that came from my core consciousness, which is Source consciousness. So just so that you know, inside of you is Source. You possess the highest consciousness that exists. That is who you are. If you will come into coherence, if you will find yourself and put yourself in alignment with Source, then you will begin to access core consciousness that came directly from Source, that always existed in you, that you know nothing about. You'll start all of a sudden having mental gifts given to you. You'll have understanding you've never had. I listen to people ask questions all the time and I go, I don't want to answer the question. You have no understanding. It would just be a waste of my time. And that may sound harsh to someone if that's who you are, if and you're living in that space. But we have to come to a place, and that's part of what Source is doing here. If I desire to continue to try to be a Christian pastor and to be your good shepherd, not only am I destroying me, I'm destroying you. I don't want to be your good shepherd. I want to help you to find who you truly are. And if I do that, I've given the world the greatest gift that there is. Are you hearing me? There's an old saying, and it says, if you meet Buddha on the road, kill him. Maybe you don't understand what that means. Meeting Buddha on the road means you met a guru who would tell you the way. If whoever isn't telling you that you're the way, then you need to be pretty scared. You are the way. Now, if you think you can do it by yourself, knock yourself out, but that ain't going to happen either. But there is a difference in mind about how you view those two. Doesn't mean there aren't many people that love you. Doesn't mean there aren't many people that desire to help you. It just simply means that they're not going to do your work and fix your problems. You must do that. And when you do, you will value them more of free will, because they made you stand on your own 2 feet instead of spoon feeding you some form of salvation. And so if you haven't heard this, this will be another piece of a synchronization. Somebody will, a day, 2 days, 3 days from now, somebody will say a word and it'll come to your mind and you'll go, that's exactly what he was talking about. Folks, it's not if these things, they're going on every single day. They happen thousands of times a day. The fact that you may not can see them doesn't change a thing. It's really been wonderful as I've learned perception that I begin to see that. I see all kinds of things that other people don't. And that's sometimes a place where I have to control myself because I get frustrated because everybody else doesn't see it. Or you talk to someone and you're 10 miles deep from them, and it's not about being so deep. It's just that you're on a different journey than they are into the same inner self. And so I hope you will take some of this to mindset. First, I would encourage you is that you become more conscious and you become more aware and you become more observant of yourself and of the things that make you feel. And maybe you should ask yourself when you feel uncomfortable, why does that make me feel so uncomfortable? What is it about that? See, everybody says, well, I got away from that person because I don't like them. And nobody ever asked the question, why don't you ask yourself why it is that made you feel, what does this person have that is, are they that much greater than you are? And you're just so weak and needy that you just find fault with everything? Or is it really something else? And so, for those of you who are looking for wonderful things, I'm telling you, they're coming. There's going to be a shift we're seeing right now. I don't know if you guys have recognized it, but all the things that are going on in the world, for all the bad everybody talks about, you look around our world, folks, and this is one of the most peaceful times that's ever existed in human history. We have less wars going on right now than we ever have had. But in everybody's mind, everything is so bad. There is chaos. The earth is birthing itself. Humanity is evolving in consciousness. It is a chaotic time, but it's not a bad time. It's just chaotic. And it's up to you to make the best out of this or to allow yourself not to. And either is a viable choice. So I hope that you will begin to recognize and begin to spend more time looking at you. And I'm not talking about looking at you. I'm talking about looking at you. Who am I and why do I exist? Why do those things matter so much to me? Why do they cause me to be so offended? Why do I need that person's attention? Why? All of those are the questions that are shadow. Those are all self-questions. No one but you can answer them. So why is your ego so big that you feel like somehow the world ought to bow to you? Why is that? That would be a very viable question for you to ask yourself and then spend time looking at what you come up with as an answer from the inside. Why is it that you think that God made you special and put you down here when everyone else is the same consciousness that you are? Because if it is true that we're all the same consciousness, then you feeling that should tell you that you're out of place. But it doesn't, because people won't look at it. And so I hope that you'll be blessed. I hope you'll take some of this. It's really powerful stuff, but it'll be wonderful for those who breathe it in, the essence of it, and then begin to put it into their life. You will watch your life change, and it will change faster with less work than you've ever had an idea about. I don't think that you have to work to do this. I think you just have to believe. And so I'm watching him change things that I've never seen, and whatever comes is okay. Whatever comes is okay, because Source has never failed, and he's not going to. And so I hope you'll grab a hold of that. I hope you'll see that, and I hope you'll walk in the peace that brings, and that'll strengthen you to look even further inside. This is not something that we reach a point and we have reached the depths, folks. This is something we will probably all be doing the rest of our life. So the better you get at looking at self, and the easier your life will go. So blessings to each one of you. Just remember, when you look in the mirror, you're looking at yourself. And if you don't like the picture, change yourself. And everything will adjust to you. To you, the world will bow. Shalom and peace to you. Namaste.